As we all know, Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is a retired colonel in Uganda, was arrested in Kenya and he was now brought to the court-martial in Uganda under trial for possession or illegal possession of firearms and weapons. Well, in this edition of Legal News Daily, I'm going to discuss everything concerning why Kizza Besigye was arrested, what are the facts of the case, and most importantly, why are we seeing the fact that his lawyer and the other lawyers who have come together to defend him have been refused to practice, and what are all the legal issues concerning this case of Besigye. So, let's go. Welcome back to Legal News Daily. I'm usual host Terry Kahuma on this channel, and like I've been seeing a lot of controversy concerning Dr. Kizza Besigye or retired Colonel Kizza Besigye. Now, Kizza Besigye, as we all know, has been a very big opponent of the incumbent president, who is President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now, this is not a political channel, this is a legal channel, and I want to discuss everything concerning why Dr. Kizza Besigye's case is going the way it is going. Now, briefly the facts, for those who may not know, Dr. Kizza Besigye is a retired colonel who was arrested in Kenya in the Riverlands, and he was brought to Uganda with a gentleman called Lutale. Now, many times we see that civilians are being tried in the court-martial. We see that Kizza Besigye was driven and abducted by operatives of Uganda People's Defense Force and brought to Machindi, which is a court-martial, put on remand, and now he was brought for a hearing. Now, we find that there is one of the most prominent lawyers in Kenya called Martha Karua. Martha Karua is a former minister of justice and one of the biggest lawyers in Kenya, the most celebrated. Now, she came ahead and said, you know what, I'm going to defend Kizza Besigye because, first of all, the Uganda People's Defense Forces, which is the UPDF, and government are trying Dr. Kizza Besigye for a crime that he did not commit in Uganda. They're trying him for a crime that he committed in Kenya. Well, it's even alleged that he committed it. So she went ahead and said, you know what, I'm declaring that I'm going to come and practice in Uganda. Now, we all know that Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, all of these are what are called Commonwealth countries. Commonwealth countries are countries which were colonized by Great Britain, and they were all under the royal monarch of Britain. Now, meaning that we all practice what's called common law. So Martha Karua, by saying that she's going to come and defend Dr. Kizza Besigye in the court-martial, she knew that the Kenyan law is much like the Ugandan law. Now, we know that many times we have had some lawyers who have wanted to practice law in Uganda, especially for highly specialized cases. Now, we have what's called the Advocates Act, and Martha Karua can actually go ahead and apply for what is called a special practicing certificate, which is basically a special practicing license for her to practice in the jurisdiction of Uganda. I've mentioned jurisdiction many times, and jurisdiction is basically the inherent powers of court to be able to try a particular case. Now, jurisdiction means territorial. So for us to say Martha Karua can actually practice in Uganda, meaning that she can practice in the Ugandan jurisdiction. Why is she doing this? Because she has taken interest, given the fact that Kizza Besigye was unlawfully arrested in Kenya and is being charged for a crime that he committed in Kenya, but is being tried in a Ugandan military tribunal, which is a court-martial. So let's go to what the law says. Under the Advocates Act, we have it that Section 13 and Section 7 talk about a special practicing certificate of an advocate. So this basically means that we have the normal ways of how a Ugandan citizen who has practiced law can become an advocate. However, if someone or a member of the East African community, let's say Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, has practiced law in their countries, then they can come to Uganda and then ask for a special certificate of practice. So what are the requirements basically? Number one, Martha Karua needs to present what is called practicing certificate that she has in Kenya. Number two, she needs to present her 4-year degree from an accredited university in Kenya. Number three, she needs to be able to obtain a certificate of competence or a certificate of ethics in Uganda. So basically, she has to apply to Uganda Law Council, which is the biggest governing body of all the lawyers and advocates in Uganda. So we have Uganda Law Council and we have Uganda Law Society. But in accordance with Section 13 and Section 7 of the Advocates Act of Uganda, it basically says that Martha Karua, even if she applies for a special practicing certificate, she can only do so for a specific period of time. So if she's applying to Uganda Law Council, the board and members of Uganda Law Council need to sit down and say, Martha Karua from Kenya is asking for a practice certificate. Now, we need to give it her for a specific period of time. Either she has to do it for let's say a year, she can ask for a year to practice in Uganda, or for the period of time under which the Kizza Besigye case is going on. So I wanted to just bring that to you. One thing I need to mention, and I will continue mentioning it, is that for civilians being tried in the court-martial, it is actually wrong, because the court-martial is a tribunal for the military and is only for acting serving police of the army of Uganda. So by Kizza Besigye being a retired colonel of the army, he's now a normal civilian. And for them to be charging him for illegal possession of firearms, they need to present a lot of evidence. Where was the gun? Was the gun in his room? Did he possess the gun? I mean, all of these need to be looked at in tendering in the evidence. However, with Martha Karua still being in the search for her special practicing certificate, the case yesterday, 2nd December, was adjourned to now 10th, giving Martha Karua time to be able to attain her special practicing certificate. Let's just see where things is going to go moving forward. The reason why the UPDF and the Ugandan government is successfully trying Besigye in the court-martial is because there was an earlier petition that reached the Supreme Court where they were basically stating that a civilian should not be tried in the court-martial. The court-martial should only be for acting, serving officers of the army. That means colonels, generals, lieutenants, captains, and kadogos in courts in Uganda. So Kizza Besigye, what his lawyers can do, his lawyers being with Lukwago and company advocates and Martha Karua, can first of all, once the trial resumes, they can ask for a transfer of the case to the normal court system, which is the magistrates courts, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and Supreme Court. It should not be in the court-martial. Well, that is just my legal opinion, and I think it is basically right. So until next time, please let me know what I should talk about in a future video. Let's just see where the Besigye case is going to go moving forward. Until next time, I'll see you. Bye-bye.